The air conditioner in Adekunle's study hummed, a loyal servant fighting back the thick, wet heat of Port Harcourt. Outside, the afternoon sun beat down on the manicured lawn of his estate in GRA. From his leather chair, he could see the high walls topped with electric wire, the uniformed gateman, Musa, sitting in the shade of the gatehouse, and the hibiscus flowers drooping in the heat. Everything was in its place. Everything was his. He had built this life brick by brick, deal by deal, on a foundation of concrete and lies. He swirled the amber liquid in his glass. The whiskey was 25 years old, a gift from an oil executive whose contract he had secured. Life was good, predictable. His wife, Funke, was at her boutique. His son, Bayo, was at his expensive international school. In 3 hours he would drive his gleaming new G-Wagon to the golf club. This was the rhythm of his life, a rhythm he had paid for in full one dark moonless night 15 years ago, a cost he never thought would come collecting. The intercom on his desk crackled to life. "Oga, sorry to disturb you, sir." It was Musa. Adekunle sighed, annoyed at the interruption. "What is it?" "Oga, one man dey forgate. He say he be your brother." He frowned. His only brother was dead. Some distant cousin from the village, no doubt, come to beg for school fees or hospital bills. He had a special, dismissive tone for them. "Tell him I am not at home. Give him 5,000 naira and send him away." There was a pause. "Oga, I don't think... He say his name is Emeka." The glass slipped from Adekunle's hand, falling onto the thick Persian rug with a dull thud. Whiskey stained the cream-colored wool. Emeka. A name he had not heard spoken aloud in 15 years. A name he himself had buried under mud and river water. It had to be a trick. A scam. Someone from the village had put this man up to it, feeding him details to try and blackmail him. Anger, hot and sharp, replaced the cold dread in his stomach. He would deal with this himself. "I am coming," he snapped into the intercom. The walk from his air-conditioned study to the front gate was like stepping into a furnace. The humidity wrapped around him, and sweat pricked his brow. He straightened his starched white kaftan, a mask of authority and wealth. He would crush this insect. He reached the black iron gates. Musa stood nervously to one side, and through the bars Adekunle saw him. The man was not a beggar. He was tall and lean, his clothes worn but clean. He stood with a stillness that was unsettling, his hands loose at his sides. His face was thin, weathered by sun and hardship. For a moment Adekunle felt nothing but contemptuous relief. This man looked nothing like the soft, hopeful boy he remembered. This was just another nobody. Then the man turned his head slightly, and the sun caught the side of his face. Adekunle saw the scar on the stranger's face, and his world stopped, because he was the one who had carved it there the night he left his younger brother to die. It was a thin white line, a river of dead skin running from his temple down to the edge of his jaw. The memory hit Adekunle with the force of a physical blow. The glint of the knife in the moonlight, the desperate struggle on the riverbank. Emeka's scream cut short as he went into the dark, churning water of the Boni River. Adekunle waited. He had watched for a full hour to be sure. No one could have survived that. No one. His mind screamed, "Ghost. It is a ghost come to haunt me." But ghosts did not cast shadows, and this man cast a long, thin one on the hot pavement. "What do you want?" Adekunle's voice was a harsh whisper. He could feel Musa watching him, a new curious expression on the gateman's face. The man's eyes met his through the iron bars. They were his brother's eyes, but all the light had gone out of them. They were flat and hard, like river stones. "Adekunle," the man said. His voice was quiet, raspy as if from disuse. It has been a long time. It was him. The accent, the cadence, the ghost of the boy he once was. It was Emeka. The air left Adekunle's lungs. He felt dizzy, the ground tilting beneath his feet. "Musa," he choked out, grabbing the gate for support. "Get this madman away from my house, now! Call security!" Musa looked from Adekunle's panicked face to the stranger's calm one. He saw the scar. He saw the unmistakable family resemblance in the man's jawline and forehead. He saw something pass between the two men that he did not understand, but it was not madness. It was history. Musa did not move. Emeka's lips twisted into something that was not a smile. It was colder. "You look well, brother. Father's land has been good to you." Every word was a stone thrown at the glass house of Adekunle's life. The stolen inheritance, the land he had sold to start his first company, the foundation of everything he owned. "I don't know who you are," Adekunle lied, his voice trembling. "Leave now or I will have you arrested." Emeka stared at him for a long moment. He did not seem angry. He did not seem vengeful. He seemed patient, as if he had all the time in the world. He had already waited 15 years. "I will leave," Emeka said softly, "for now." He turned and began to walk away, his back straight, his steps unhurried. He watched him go, his heart pounding against his ribs like a trapped bird. He thought it was over, a nightmare he would wake from. Then, after about 20 paces, Emeka stopped. He turned his head and looked back, right at Adekunle. "By the way," he called out, his voice carrying clearly in the hot, still air. "Tell Funke I said hello, and give my nephew, Bayo, a kiss for me." He turned back around and kept walking, disappearing around the corner. Adekunle stood frozen, his knuckles white where he gripped the gate. He knew his wife's name. He knew his son's name. This was not a ghost. This was not a scam. This was a reckoning. The river had not kept it secret, and the man it had given back had come to collect. For a full minute after the man who called himself Emeka had vanished, Adekunle stood clutching the iron bars of the gate. His knuckles were white. His knuckles were the only part of him that felt solid. The thick, humid air of Port Harcourt of an afternoon seemed to thin, making it hard to breathe. The world he had commanded just 10 minutes ago had shrunk to this single point of terror. His eyes darted to the gateman. Musa refused to look at him, staring instead at the spot on the road where the stranger had disappeared. The man's loyalty, once absolute, was now a question mark. Musa had seen his Oga's fear. He had heard the name. He had seen the resemblance in the man's jawline and forehead. He saw something pass between the two men that he did not understand, but it was not madness. It was history. Musa did not move. "Musa," Adekunle's voice was a dry rasp. "You saw nothing. You heard nothing. A madman came to the gate. I sent him away. Do you understand?" Musa finally looked at him. There was no defiance in his eyes, only a deep, unnerving pity. "Yes, Oga, a madman." But they both knew it was a lie. This was the first crack, a hairline fracture in the loyalty of a man who guarded his door. Adekunle knew, with a sickening certainty, that he would have to get rid of Musa. He turned and walked back towards the house, his steps unsteady on the expensive interlocking stones. He felt 100 years old. Inside, the blast of the air conditioner did not cool him. It felt like the chill of a morgue. He went straight to the bar, his hands shaking so badly that the neck of the whiskey bottle rattled against the rim of the glass as he poured it. He drank it in one go, the fire in his throat a welcome distraction from the ice in his veins.
His son's name. He knew his son's name.
He stumbled into the living room and stared at the large framed portrait above the marble fireplace. It was of him, Funke, and a 7-year-old Beo, all dressed in immaculate white for a family event. They looked perfect. Wealthy, happy, untouchable. It was a lie. A beautiful, expensive lie. Emeka's words had turned the portrait into a target. The sound of a car horn at the gate made him jump. Funke. It was Wednesday. She always came home by 5. He looked at the clock. 4:58 p.m. The precise, orderly schedule of his life was now a countdown to a new kind of dread. When she walked in, she was an image of effortless elegance. Her dress was a splash of vibrant color, her perfume filling the sterile air of the house. She took one look at his face, at the sweat on his brow despite the cold air, at the empty glass in his trembling hand, and her smile vanished. "Ade, what is it? What's wrong?" "Nothing," he said, the word coming out too fast, too loud. "Long day. Business." Funke walked closer, her eyes sharp, analytical. She ran her own successful business. She knew what stress looked like. This was something else. This was fear. "Don't lie to me, Adekunle. I saw your car. You haven't left the house all day. What has happened?" He couldn't tell her. To tell her about Emeka was to admit that their entire life, the house, the cars, her boutique he'd funded, Bayo's school fees, was all built on stolen money and a presumed grave. It was to tell her that the man she married was a thief and a killer. "It's a deal," he improvised, turning away from her gaze. "A competitor is making threats. It's ugly, but it's nothing I can't handle." "What kind of threats?" she pressed, not letting him off the hook. "Threats that make you spill whiskey on the rug and look like you've seen a ghost?" The word ghost hung in the air between them. He flinched. He saw that she had noticed. The second crack, wider this time. A fissure of doubt in his wife's mind. "It is my business, Funke. I will handle it," he snapped, his voice harsher than he intended. She recoiled, hurt and surprise on her face. He never shouted at her. He was always in control, smooth, reassuring. That man was gone, replaced by this cornered, desperate animal. Without another word, he went to his study and locked the door. He picked up his phone. His first call was to his head of security. "Double the guards at the house, effective immediately. And I want 2 men stationed outside my son's school until I say otherwise. No one picks him up but me or my driver, and you will check the driver's ID every single day. Is that clear?" His second call was to a man whose number was not saved in his phone, a man who solved problems, the kind of problems that couldn't be taken to the police. "I need you to find someone," Adekunle said, his voice low. "He will have a scar." "Yes, on his face." He spent the next hour in his study, a prisoner in his own home, jumping at every sound. When his driver brought Beo home from school, Adekunle watched from the window as his son ran across the lawn, small and carefree. A wave of protective fury washed over him. He would kill Emeka again. This time, he would do it right. He would find him and erase him from the earth for good. That night's sleep was impossible. Every shadow in the vast, dark bedroom seemed to move. He lay awake, listening to the hum of the generator, the chirping of insects, the sound of his own heart pounding in his ears. Funke slept beside him, but there was a new distance between them, a cold expanse created by his lies. Finally, near 3 a.m., he gave up. He slipped out of bed and went to the kitchen for a glass of water. As he walked back through the silent house, a sliver of moonlight from the hallway window fell across the floor of his locked study. The door was slightly ajar. He froze. He knew he had locked it. He was sure of it. His heart hammering, he pushed the door open. Everything looked normal. The leather chair, the mahogany desk, the array of expensive pens. Nothing was out of place. He was about to dismiss it as his own frayed nerves when he saw it. Sitting perfectly in the center of his leather blotter was a small object. It was a bird, crudely carved from a piece of dark wood with uneven wings and a pointed beak. Adekunle's breath hitched in his throat.
He didn't have to touch it to feel its weight. He knew it instantly. Emeka had carved it for him for his 10th birthday, made from the branch of a mango tree that used to stand in his father's compound. He had kept it for years, until he had thrown it in the river along with his brother's body. He was in the house. The ghost was in his house. The foundation of his life wasn't just cracking. It was about to collapse. The sun had barely risen over Port Harcourt on Thursday morning when Adekunle's world, now confined to the walls of his estate, began to burn. Sleep was a foreign country he could not visit. The image of the small wooden bird was burned into his mind. It was a declaration of war. It meant his enemy was not at the gate, but inside his head, inside his house, everywhere. At 6 a.m., he assembled the entire household staff in the sterile white kitchen. Musa, the gateman, the 2 housekeepers, the cook. They stood before him, their heads bowed, fear radiating from them like heat from asphalt. Funke stood in the doorway, her arms crossed, her face a mask of weary disbelief. "One of you let him in." Adekunle's voice was low and dangerous, stripped of its usual smooth commanding. "One of you is a traitor. Who was it?" He stared into their faces, searching for a flicker of guilt. He saw only terror. He zeroed in on Musa. "It was you, the man at the gate yesterday. He paid you, didn't he? How much did my dead brother pay you to betray me?" "Oga, I swear on my mother's life," Musa stammered, his body trembling. "I did nothing. I would never." Adekunle's rage, fueled by fear and lack of sleep, boiled over. He backhanded the gateman across the face. The sound was a sharp crack in the silent kitchen. Funke gasped. "Adekunle, stop this," she cried, rushing forward. "These people have served us for years. You are losing your mind." "Stay out of this, Funke," he snarled, turning on her. "You don't understand what is at stake." The look on her face, pity, disgust, and a dawning fear of him was another crack splitting the foundation of his life. He had lost control, and they had all seen it. He dismissed the staff, leaving them weeping and terrified, and stormed off to get ready. He could not hide. Hiding was for the weak. He would put on his armor, his tailored Italian suit, and go to his office. He would pretend the world was not collapsing around him. The drive to his office in the city center was agony. Every motorbike that pulled up beside his G-Wagon, every street hawker who peered into his tinted windows had Emeka's eyes. He saw him everywhere. He was a ghost haunting an entire city. His office was on the top floor of a gleaming glass tower he owned, a monument to a success. But today, it felt like a trap. At 11 a.m. he was scheduled to meet with Chief Bello, a wealthy, influential investor whose partnership was critical for a new deepwater logistics contract worth billions of naira. Adekunle composed himself, smoothed his tie, and ordered coffee. He was Adekunle Bayobaku. He was a king in this city. Chief Bello arrived, a large man in flowing agbada, smelling of money and expensive cologne. They exchanged pleasantries. They spoke of oil prices, of the governor, of the terrible traffic on the Aba Road. Adekunle felt his confidence returning. This was his world. He understood these rhythms. "Now, about the prospectus," Adekunle began, pushing a leather-bound document across the vast mahogany desk. Chief Bello did not look at it. He leaned back in his chair, steepling his fingers. "Adekunle, my boy, we will get to that. First, a strange thing. I was at the polo club this morning for breakfast. Your name came up." Adekunle's blood ran cold. Oh, I'd hope it was for a good reason. "It was curious," the chief continued, studying Adekunle's face. "An old acquaintance was asking about your family history, specifically about the brother you lost, the one who drowned in the river. He was asking if it was true that he was supposed to inherit the bulk of your father's land." The words were dropped casually, but they landed like grenades in the quiet office. Adekunle fought to keep his expression neutral. "Village gossip, Chief. People have long memories and even longer tongues. My brother's death was a tragedy. A terrible accident." Of course, a tragedy," Chief Bellows said, but his eyes were sharp. He was a shark who had smelled a drop of blood in the water. It is important for a man's foundation to be solid. Reputation, you understand, is the first and last form of capital. He finally picked up the prospectus, but he did not open it. "Let me review this, and have my people get back to you. We must have lunch again soon." The meeting was over. The deal was not dead, but it was bleeding. The whisper had done its work. The rest of the day was a cascade of paranoia. A call from a cousin in the village asking why he had fired Musa, who had already returned home telling stories of the Oga's madness. A junior business partner canceling a lunch meeting with a flimsy excuse.
The way his own secretary flinched when he asked her to hold his calls. The whispers were everywhere, spreading like a virus through the city's bloodstream. Emeka was poisoning his name, not with loud accusations, but with quiet, untraceable questions. At 4:30 p.m., as the afternoon rain began to fall, his private line rang. It was Funke. Her voice was thin, trembling, stripped of its usual strength. "Ade, you need to come home." "What is it? Is Bayo all right?" he demanded, his mind instantly flashing to his son. "Bayo is fine. He's here. Just come home." She was crying. He could hear her trying to stifle her sobs. "A package came for me, to the boutique, by dispatch rider." "What was in it?" Adekunle asked, his throat tight. There was a long pause on the other end of the line, filled only by the sound of her ragged breathing. "A photograph, an old one, of you and another boy. You look so young," she sobbed. "And on the back, someone wrote a message." Adekunle closed his eyes, gripping the edge of his desk. He knew what was coming. "What did it say, Funke?" Her voice was barely audible, a ghost of a whisper, carrying a death sentence for the life he knew. "It says, 'Ask your husband why the boy who was supposed to inherit everything is dead, and he is not.'"